ideas. Once I make your informative speech evaluation form available to you, you will see where I have a specific place that I grade you just for what kind of support you use. And I am specifically looking for these 4 things. I am looking for examples, statistics, testimonies, and comparisons. Those are the 4 major types of supporting materials I want to see on your outline and here in your speech. An example, anything where you use one thing to represent a group of other things, whether it's people, ideas, conditions, experiences, etc. Examples are super easy. People use examples without even thinking about it, but there are different types: brief, extended, hypothetical. Brief is where you refer to it in passing. I'm not going to read every one of these. Extended example is where it's a story. It's a little bit longer. Hypothetical example describes a situation that's imaginary or fictitious, but still possible and believable. Tips for using examples: be sure they clarify, reinforce, and personalize your ideas. Make your examples vivid and detailed. People love stories. Tell us stories. And practice your delivery on those examples so they come out really well, especially on the stories that you plan to tell. Statistics is anytime you use numbers like averages, percentages, ratios. Any numerical expression will quantify and add credibility to your claims. Here are some examples of some ways statistics are used. This is an article from the Reader's Digest, Why Older Adults Are Early Birds. In a recent study in the journal Psychology and Aging, researchers gave young adults ages 19 to 30 and older adults ages 60 to 82 memory tests. And it goes on to tell about these memory tests, and it says 11%, 7%. Those are all statistics, but the thing that I want to land on here is that if you just say young adults, you say I'm a young adult, that's going to mean a different thing for every different person. I don't know that I would make a 30-year-old a young adult, but I guess they are. At least here, that's who they're including up to age 30. We might not include that on our own. So they tell us what age range they mean. They tell us the age range that they surveyed. Older adults, you say older adults, that's 60 to 82. And if you say 60 to 82, I can immediately think of somebody who is 60 to 82. My parents are in their 70s. So that gives me a frame of reference for what's being discussed. Oh, older adults, like my parents, 60 to 82. And also, it kind of comes as a relief that they're starting old at age 60, because that means it's not me. I get to sit out of being an old adult for this one. They're starting at age 60. Go 50s, Yay. So giving these examples or these age ranges are statistics that help us understand what they mean by young, what they mean by older. Then they have their specific statistics down there. Be sure that your statistics are from a reliable source. Anybody can say, a number. That doesn't make it a right number. Be sure it's true. Statistics make your claims specific and relatable, like this up here. The age range is specific and also, in some cases, relatable. Use statistics sparingly. Don't go crazy with numbers. If you have a ton of numbers in your speech, you need to take some out, because people can only remember so many numbers at a time. And always cite your sources. Identify the source of your statistics. If it's numbers, who'd you get it from? You have to cite that source. Explain your statistics. They don't always speak for themselves. They need for you to explain them. Numbers can be difficult. Round them off if they're complicated. Do it fairly, though. If you have 411, don't say almost 500. That you're kind of fudging the truth there. But if you have 498, that's almost 500. You can round that off. Use visual aids, make some graphs, some charts, some things to help us understand the numbers a little bit better. Testimony, that is quotations or paraphrases that are used to make a point. Expert testimony comes from people who are experts. Duh. Peer testimony comes from ordinary people with first-hand experience. And there's different examples here if you want to read those. Direct quotation is testimony that's presented word for word, where paraphrase is where you, the speaker, will restate or summarize their words in your own words. Either one of these is fine. You can do either one, as long as you cite the source. Even if you're paraphrasing, you still need to cite where you got the information that you used in your paraphrase. So always cite. Don't quote out of context. Here's some about that. Tips for using testimony: be sure that you do it accurately. If you're going to quote somebody, get what they meant in there. Don't change it up. Don't take words out or add words. Got to be accurate. Be sure your testimony comes from qualified sources, comes from unbiased sources, and then always identify the people you quote or paraphrase. It was so funny. Years ago, a guy came to my class and gave a speech and cited a particular person as an expert testimony. And he said, and I'm just going to say John Smith, that's not his name, but he said, John Smith told me that Civil War weaponry included from this to that, and he explained all this and said that John Smith was his expert testimony. And I recognized that name. And I said, I know that name. And I asked the guy, I said, where'd you go to high school? And he said, oh, blah, and he told me what high school he went to. When'd you graduate? And he told me, and I said, that's what I thought. This expert testimony that you're using is my nephew who graduated with you from that same high school. He's not an expert. He's just some high school graduate that you got an opinion from about Civil War weaponry. Are you kidding me? Oh yeah, no, he is an expert. He knows everything. And I'm like, he's my nephew, and I'm telling you, he's not an expert. He may know a lot or have read a lot, but you could have read a lot too. You didn't need to go ask him. You should find that out from actual experts. So good grief. Be sure they're real, qualified sources. Comparison, analogies, anytime that you can use something familiar to explain something unfamiliar. Here's some examples of good analogies. Forests are the lungs of our land. Are trees really lungs? Is that? You know what lungs are, right? In a human body, trees aren't lungs. What does he mean? He means they breathe. They breathe for the earth. Trees do the breathing of the earth. They pull in the bad air, they breathe out the good air so that we can breathe in the good air and breathe out the bad air, and it's a cycle. And so trees are the lungs of our land. It's a metaphor. It's an analogy. Serving sizes. If you tell me that I need a cup of broccoli with every meal, first of all, I'm going to be really bummed out because I really don't want to eat broccoli with every meal. But if I get one of my meals at a restaurant and I don't have a cup measure to put my broccoli in, how do I know if I have enough broccoli to consist of a cup? I look at my fist. I compare the mound of broccoli on my plate with the fist, and if it's about the same, I got a cup. So I'm comparing my hand or my fist to food. And it's an analogy, it's a metaphor, a comparison. So use those. This is my favorite one. His brain tumor weighed 15.93 grams, was 42.6 millimeters in diameter, and had a viscosity of 72%. And if you stop right there, I have no idea. Does he have a freaking basketball in his head? Is it the size of a grapefruit? I don't know what millimeters are. I don't science, are you kidding me? I learned that in 9th grade and forgot it as soon as I passed the class. Metric system, come on, not me, the speech teacher. What's viscosity? 72% viscosity, what does that mean? How understand, and quantities that mean nothing to me. Explain it. Okay. In other words, it was about the size of a golf ball, but it looked and felt more like a water balloon. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's what they got out of his head. That's a much better scenario than the grapefruit or the basketball I was picturing. You know, what the heck? Golf ball, water balloon. Ding! I got it. And this is an old statistic, but looky here. Confirmed COVID-19 cases in Alabama have topped 22,000, and that's as many as would fit into the stadium in Houston, Texas. Because if you just say 22,000, I'm not real sure how big that is. That's a big number. I don't know. But you say in an actual stadium where they play football, that's a lot. It makes sense to me now. So use comparisons to help your information make sense to your audience. And this is actually from this past summer. It's more than that now. Pretty sad, more than that. I am specifically looking for all 4 of the preceding types of support, which is also called evidence in your persuasive speech. And so I want you to become familiar with and use them all. Go find those things in the library or on the computer and use them in your speeches. And looky here, I'm finished. That's it for today.